So today I'm going to show you how to assign values to variables in GNU Emacs Calc as we begin to explore the algebraic mode of the calculator. To do this, we are going to solve a conditional quadratic equation making use of the PQ formula. So we get to brush up on our algebra a little bit. Now, if you have not seen my first video introducing GNU Emacs Calc, I highly recommend you check that out first. Otherwise, you might find the tempo of this a little fast. But then, who am I to judge? There's a lot to get through today, so let's get into GNU Emacs Calc. It is now time to meta X into GNU Emacs Calc. We're going to go into full window mode, and the example I'm going to be using today is a quadratic equation where we are going to be solving for X using the PQ formula. The first time we do it, we're going to be using RPN notation, and then I will show you how to use variable assignments to deal with this. So we're going to get started entering these operands. So we get 6 and 2 that we are going to find the quotient of, and then we're going to negate that result using the N key. Now we can move into the radicand where we are going to take 6 and divide it by 2 again. We are then going to square that result. Now we can enter in that operand of Q, which is 5, finding the difference. And now that we have a value for our radicand, we can take the principal square root using uppercase Q. To find the first root, we are going to use the plus key, and then we can go back using U for undo and using the minus sign to find the second root. So that's quite easy to find both roots of a quadratic equation using the PQ formula. Now, before I can talk about variable assignments, I need to introduce you to the idea of the algebraic mode of the calculator. To enter this mode, you can use the apostrophe key, and you'll see the algebraic prompt at the bottom left-hand corner of your screen. You can also enter this mode permanently using the MA key binding, and to get back into the default mode, just enter that same key binding of MA. So we're ready to make our first variable assignment. So the first thing we need is a value. I'm going to add 6 to the stack, and then I'm going to use the key binding S, and it will prompt me for a variable name. I'm going to call it P, and now we can see that the value of 6 has been stored to the value of P. Also note that 6 has been recorded to the top of the stack. Now to recall that value, I can go SR, and it prompts me for the variable name, which is P, and it returns the value of the variable to the top of the stack. But what if you didn't want the value you assigned to the variable to appear on the top of the stack? Well, there's a way to do this. So I'm going to take 5, and then I'm going to go ST for my key binding. It's still going to prompt me for a variable name. I'm going to use Q, but notice that the value is not placed on the top of the stack. Yes, our variables are now defined, so we can go ahead and enter our expression. Now be careful here. We need to use apostrophe P, algebraic mode, to enter the variable P, and then I can use the equal sign to evaluate the expression at any time. Now we're going to take P and we're going to divide it by 2. So we're going to use 2 as our next operand and then divide the result. Notice it's P divided by 2. If I want to see the actual result, I can use the equal sign to evaluate it. I'm going to use N to negate it, and now we can move back into that radicand where we are going to take again that value of P and we are going to divide it by 2. We're going to take this result and we are going to square it. And again, you can use the equal sign at any time to check the value. And now we are going to enter Q. Be careful, apostrophe Q, otherwise you will quit out of the calculator. So again, apostrophe Q to enter the variable Q, and then we will subtract this value from P squared over 4. Now that we have the radicand, we are going to take the square root of this by pressing uppercase Q. Notice that we can see the algebraic SQRT function here, which we will talk about in a moment. And then again, we can see the result using the equal sign. Let's go ahead and add these together for the first result. And we need the equal sign to evaluate it. Again, U undo and U undo again. And this time I am going to subtract these results and equal sign to see the actual root of the equation. That's pretty cool. But what would be even cooler is if I could edit the expression at the top of my stack. And it turns out I can. Watch this move. Calc edit, or the grave key for quick access. This is going to bring open a new Emacs buffer. So I can now edit this expression like I would any other text. So I'm going to use my Vim key bindings here, F for find, and then minus sign, and then semicolon, and then R for replace. And now I can Control C to confirm, and then I press my equal sign to evaluate my new expression. That is wicked cool. You can edit an entire expression, but can you enter an expression all in one go? And the answer is yes, you can. Now, up until this point, we've been entering operands like 25, and then we would use Q, for example, to find the principal square root. Now we are going to enter algebraic mode to enter the entire expression. So for example, sqrt, which is the function, and giving it the argument 25, returns 5 to the top of the stack. Now let's take this idea and apply it to our quadratic formula. We're now going to be able to enter the entire formula in one go in algebraic mode. So I have a negative p over 2 plus, now I can actually type that square root function sqrt and provide it the argument, which is p over 2 quantity squared minus q. Notice that the result is placed directly on top of the stack. Now, before I evaluate this, I'm just going to change the place of these two operands using the tab key, and then I'll backspace to delete that 5. So now using the equal sign to evaluate the expression. Now, how do we get the other root? Well, we just saw that we can edit this expression at the top of our stack, and I use the grave key this time, and I'm just going to change the operator on this square root here to be negative. And then we can Control C, equal sign to evaluate, and there's the other root. So remember earlier I showed you how you could use the ST key binding to store a value to a variable where it would not appear at the top of the buffer. Here's an example of why that is important, because I've just reassigned the values of P and Q to solve this new equation. And what I want to be able to do is evaluate that expression again. And if I would have had those values added to the stack, I wouldn't have been able to evaluate the expression directly. And here I can use the equal sign to evaluate it. Now, to get the other root, remember we can use the grave key to enter a normal Emacs buffer, change the expression, in this case removing the negation operator, and then hitting the equal sign one last time to get the other root. My name is Mark, and thank you so much for watching.